Bonjour. Hello. Je suis Megan Ho et je vous souhaite la bienvenue à la Galerie d'Art d'Ottawa. Merci d'être venu prendre le thé avec nous. Hello, my name is Megan Ho, and on behalf of the Ottawa Art Gallery, I would like to welcome you and thank you for joining us this afternoon for a conversation between artist Chun Catherine Dong and Chief Curator of the OAG, Rebecca Basciano, in the context of our Focus Fest today. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that the Ottawa Art Gallery operates on the beautiful Anishinaabe Aki. The Anishinaabe have been on this territory, known today as the City of Ottawa, since the beginning of time. All sorts of art forms have been, continue, and will continue to be a part of the vibrant Anishinaabe culture. Je prends un moment pour saluer la nation Anishinaabe, car nous nous trouvons aujourd'hui sur ces terres non cédées, qui a fourni à la culture de nombreuses sources d'inspiration. Our program today will be a 40-minute chat between Chun-Hua and Rebecca within the context of our exhibition Through the Ground Glass, now on view on our 4th floor, after which we will open up the floor to the audience for any Q&A. Veuillez noter, la présentation se déroulera en anglais. Please note the presentation portion of the talk will be recorded and kept for future access. Please make yourself comfortable and, of course, help yourself to any tea, coffee, or refreshments, which can be found at the back of the room. Before we jump in, I just wanted to take a moment to thank our OAG funders, la Ville d'Ottawa, the City of Ottawa, le Conseil des Arts du Canada, Canadian Council for the Arts, et le Conseil des Arts de l'Ontario, the Ontario Arts Council. We would also like to thank everyone who has contributed to make Focus Fest an eventful day at the OAG today. Jeff Thomas and Olivia Johnston for their earlier presentations, the Kodak Girls for their fantastic photo booth, as well as a big thank you to SPOW for their coordinating a great presentation table, as well as a workshop for our guests. We hope you've enjoyed the programming today. I am now pleased to introduce Chun-Hua Catherine Dong and Rebecca Basciano, and to share a brief introduction with their bios. Chun-Hua Catherine Dong is a multimedia artist living in Montreal. Dong received an MFA from Concordia University and a BFA from Emily Carr University Art and Design. Her work has been exhibited at Quebec City Biennale, International Digital Art Biennale Montreal, Five Foundation Momenta, Biennale de l'Image, Macval in France, and the Rooms Museum, among others. Dong was the recipient of the Franklin Furnace Award in New York in 2014, a finalist for the Contemporary Art Award at le Musée national des beaux-arts du Québec in 2020, and was awarded with the Cultural Diversity in Visual Arts by the Conseil des Arts de Montréal in 2021. Dong was also a long-listed artist for the Sobey Art Award in 2024. Rebecca Basciano is the Chief Curator at the Ottawa Art Gallery, where she has been working for the last 11 years. She contextualizes Canadian artistic practices through exhibitions, publishing catalogs, acquiring works for the collection, facilitating touring exhibitions, and networking partnerships. She holds an MA in art history from Carleton University and specializes in Canadian art. Her most recent curatorial projects have integrated strategies of inclusion and diversity, offered counter-narratives, and have examined the intersection of historical and contemporary art. Thank you again for being here, and without further ado, I am so pleased to hand it over to Chun-Hua and Rebecca.
Okay, so hi everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. Ooh, got my clicker. So here we go. So it's such a pleasure to be speaking with you as part of this program. And your work in the exhibition Through the Ground Glass is like absolutely stunning. But before we dive into the specifics of that work and what's currently on view, I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your artistic practice in general, just a background.
Okay, thank you. And thanks, Rebecca, for your invitation. And thanks, everyone, to be here. Okay, slides.
Mm-hmm.
We get it first. I started my artistic career as a performance artist in 2009, and I mainly use my body as my visual territory and my material to to work. So I'd like to introduce a little bit of my performance and before we dive into our shows. So this is the work I did in 2010. So I did it in doing the 2010 Olympic, Winter Olympic in Vancouver. So what I did is I wear the military clothes and I walk into the Olympic red zone and I started to salute to the Olympic, like Olympic sign, the advertisement, and lots of things related to the Olympic, and with my left hand, which is the wrong hand. So this one. Another one is called, another is a durational performance. I performed many times. I cannot count how many hours. So what I did is I set up the two, a ball of rice and huge ones like this size. And I started to set it there and use the ink and painted one after one. So, and I also thought, okay, this is another one. So I also invited the people to sit in front of me and we kind of painted the two together. So this work is kind of inspired by the Chinese philosophy and the yin and yang, and how to achieve this balance through this kind of utopia, impossible gestures. Another work is in 2013. So I went back to my hometown and I was naked and I was hiding in the room in the shadow normally as long as I could to kind of explore the visual culture of shame in relation to the body. So, which you can see this one, so you barely see me, I'm on the background. Another work is in 2016, so it's called The Other Words. So what I did, and I was still eating the rice, I was eating and chewing up until it becomes soft and warm. And then I started to feed this man who was naked. So we did this like 3 hours to kind of explore the loss in translation. So this is 2017. So what I did, still wear the military clothes while wear a big mask. I did like yoga for 3 hours on the scaffold, and I was trying to kind of how to use self-care as a strategy to deal with violence, because we, in the 50s and the 60s, right, so we talk about, okay, you say, make love, no war, but I don't think this works, because you will see the war is still everywhere and the violence is still everywhere. So instead of saying make love, no war, I say, okay, do yoga, no war, because the yoga is kind of self-care. So later, I have been interested in technology for a long time, but I didn't have time before the pandemic, because, you know, when you are a performance artist, your body is your material, so you have always like traveling, because you cannot, like when you do the shipping, you can just ship your work there, but my body has to be there. So I did a lot of traveling, and I really didn't have time just sit there to work, you know. So then pandemic started, you know, and I kind of luckily feel I have lots of time to sit in front of the computer, because you cannot go out anymore. So I learned like lots of applications like software. So I started to explore like kind of digital art and incorporate like technology in my work. So this is one of my VR work, and I really enjoyed watching audience enjoy the VR. So this is another one, is I visited and used their cell phone to activate the augmented reality component on my photograph. And later, recently, I started to use like a 3D animation, like a 2D animation, like a VR and AR to make like videos, and I showed as a public art. Yeah, and of course, so, and I never forgot performance, and I started use technology in my life, on my life performance as well. So.
Wow, I feel like you went through so much there, but so quickly, and there's so many aspects of your past practice I'd love to like dig into a little bit. How long did it take you to paint every single piece of rice?
Oh my God! And I think our scientists did the math before, but I couldn't remember.
It's so futile. I love that.
You cannot. It's impossible to achieve that goal.
Exactly.
And I think probably you painted it would be 1 minute for one piece. You know, you paint it and then put it inside and pick up. But it's very
I have lots of other questions.
Yeah.
I don't know why that was the first question. That was
take a long time.
There was Anyway, I love that. Yeah, performance is a really big part of your photography, and we'll get to that a little bit later, but if I could grab the clicker. That's okay, we're sharing. Let's sort of go back to Through the Ground Glass in this particular series, and maybe we can talk about performance and some of what we see in your past practice in this work here. So this exhibition, if you haven't seen it on the 4th floor, please do so. After this talk, it's still open. It's a dialogue between the work of historical Ottawa photographer William James Topley and 6 different contemporary artists, so one of them being yourself, but as well Laurie Blondeau, Anique Jordan, Nico Paluzzi, Adrian Stimson, and Geneviève Taubat. So just a quick background on Topley. Topley was a prominent Ottawa photographer who championed photography as a blend of technical skill and artistry. And after apprenticing under William Notman in Montreal, he returned to Ottawa in 1868 to open a studio, capturing official portraits of politicians and celebrities coming to Parliament in the years after Confederation. And by the 1870s, his studio was actually attracting 2,300 sitters per year, which is quite amazing. And he had a huge staff of photographers, photo printers, retouchers, artists, and he became the official photographer to the Governor Generals of Canada, including the Marquis of Lorne, Princess Louise, Lord and Lady Aberdeen. So he was quite prolific in his time. And he was a savvy businessman and employed very innovative techniques. So again, like always keeping up with the technology. So these are examples of composite photography. So this method was really useful in an era when exposure times were longer, and it allowed for sharp, well-composed group portraits. So the way that he made these kinds of works was by photographing each individual separately, then cutting and pasting them onto a painted tableau, and then taking a picture of that. So then you get this like really commercially viable, because you could sell the individual portraits and then you can also sell the group portrait, right? And so this technique was especially popular for capturing like winter activities, as you see here, like tobogganing, skating, and curling. But it was, recreated in the studio with like fake snow and props, which were a big part of the studio, the 19th century studio atmosphere. So perhaps his most well-known composite is this one here, one that resonated with you when I asked you to be part of the show, and we were talking about Topley. So this is the 76 fancy dress ball. And the event and the photograph at the time received international attention. So perhaps we can talk about what your initial impressions of the Topley images were. Are there any themes or concepts that you found that resonated between his work and yours?
Yes. Actually, when you first time to ask me to kind of response to this topless work, when you sent me some photos, and actually, I was feeling like, wow, the combination of wow and laughter. The reason I said wow is because as a photographer myself, I'm really, really, really impressed by this work, and I know how much time he would spend there to make this masterpiece. And I have to admit, say, it is a masterpiece. So that's why I said, wow, So then when I say I laughed it because when I see this guy, it's Mr. Allen, right? When I see his picture, I laughed aloud. I was just thinking, oh my God, this is hilarious. Do you know what? Because Mr. Allen, he acclaimed what he wear is, he was mimicking or dressed up as a high officer of Chun dynasty, So, but actually, when I look at what he was wearing, actually, it's not at all. So, the hat might be okay. So, but the costume was definitely not. It's come from the Beijing Opera, and also this what's that? The umbrella. The umbrella is too small. It's too tiny. It's almost like a decoration. You can like tiny things you can buy in Chinatown, and rather than a functional umbrella. And also, of course, the shoes, is the modern shoes, it's leather shoes. And I think he was like the gesture, he was looking at this way, is more like a mimic, it's more like a woman, and rather than a man. Because in China, the man would never have this tiny umbrella hold it. And while has a fan doing this, it's kind of really hilarious. So I had these mixed feelings, When I still look at him, I was just, wow, this is hilarious. Of course, at that time, I didn't think about much about the historical side, how Chinese people in North America's situation it's more just to say, okay, this is hilarious. Yeah, it's true. Also, and in 2000, I have been always interested in Beijing opera, and in 2021, I did a performance, it's live performance and incorporated technology and the Beijing opera costume. But at that time, I really wanted to have a Beijing opera costume, but in North America, you barely find it. So what I did is I ordered online from China, but then when I received it, oh yeah, this is just a replicate, it's not well made at all, but it looks like Beijing opera, but it's not authentic. So I was kind of disappointed. So, and then when I received your information about the toppler, and I was, oh yeah, I'm interested in Beijing opera, and also this guy is the authentic Beijing opera costume. So, and I wanted to go back to China, and I wanted those authentic opera to the costume, So that's why I went back. And also, as I mentioned, I have been long interested in Beijing opera. When I was younger, I really loved it, but the Beijing opera is considered as high art. It's not accessible to everybody. And when I was a kid, I loved the Beijing opera. It's not because of the singing, because nobody understands what they are saying. Actually, it's like, nobody understands. But what fascinated me is more like the costume, the fantastic costume. See. And also the movement. So that's how I'm interested in Beijing opera. Of course, later now I started to know more about the Beijing opera. I love the singing, So, but when you're a child, you're more fascinated by something, more like eye-catching. And also, Beijing opera is considered as a male-dominated performance. So this man or woman, okay, we can say man. So this is the master, one of the famous master in Beijing opera, and he's a man, So in Beijing opera, it's always man act as a woman, It is not because of their, it's more like a street man act as women. They will pinch the voice and sing like a woman. It is because in the old days, we all know, women were not allowed to perform in public. And also, it was believed women, because women, they think they're weak, they couldn't perform some physical strength demanding performance in Beijing opera. So even though the things started to change, in recent years, but the men still considered as the masters. So that's why I wanted to go back to China and combine these things together and kind of explore gender and identity and relate it to my own life. So, and actually this is the master as well. He's a man, actually. Okay. Oh, yeah. Always hold it.
That's right. Thank you. So I just want to get into a little bit of history on, so why is Mr. William Allen dressing up for this picture, and what is this picture and costumes? So just a quick little history. So this is a fancy dress ball. It was very popular in the 19th century among the privileged and the elite. It offered freedom and frivolity, and therefore temporary relief from really repressive Victorian society at the time. So costumes included like historical, literary, ethnocultural, allegorical characters. So a few examples from this very ball include somebody here dressed as knight, the concept of knight, Santa, fishwives, so dressing as the lower classes, the King of Spain at the time, and the Dominion of Canada, and she has little snowshoes on her train there. So the 1876 Fancy Dress Ball was hosted by Lord Dufferin and the third Governor General of Canada, and his wife, Lady Dufferin. And it's definitely in support of a colonial agenda. So it's a strategic way of drawing attention to Ottawa as a worthy capital city and to foster nationalist sentiment. As such, many of these costumes reinforced colonial attitudes and perpetrated very harmful stereotypes based on race and ethnicity. So in these insensitive portrayals are then fueling or being fueled by social attitudes and embraced by all these people who are in positions of power. So getting back to Mr. William Allen, can you just go into a little bit more about how the photographs in the exhibition directly, sort of, well, I don't know, I'm giving you the clicker, not the microphone. Talk a little bit more about how your photos are influenced by this particular work.
Okay, thank you. Before we talk about how I mimicked Mr. Allen, and I want to talk about this photo first. Of course, when I think about the topless photograph, I think about the camera, and especially the old camera. So in this photograph, when of course, I just use the camera and point at the audience or the viewer as a way to reject their gaze, no matter it's patriarchal gaze or male gaze or female gaze, and I think about it as my own gaze. And here I'm more thinking about the responsibility as a photographer. What is my role in my photographer, and what is a topless role in his work? And I think in 19th century, when Toppler photographed those fancy dress ball and those famous people, when they see them dressed up as on other culture, Toppler might think it's okay because he did it, right? But nowadays, I was thinking about, and now we have this kind of power to choose not do it or have this subconscious. When the time you pick up the camera and point on something, you need to ask. I think for me, I need to ask myself the question: who is my subject, and how I'm going to depict my subject? And did I perpetuate the stereotype, or if yes, do I have the rights? I think I have the rights, or kind of a freedom to choose not. So this is the questions in my mind when I try to make this work. Yes, of course, Mr. Allen. First of all, his umbrella is too small, so that's why I have a big umbrella. Because I thought, and he mimicked the other culture, the Chinese culture, and I thought, okay, now I'm going to mimic him. So that's how I did. And also, I wear this kind of authentic Beijing opera, which borrowed from the Beijing Opera Academy, you know. And the shoes I wear is the men's shoes, which is kind of compare and contrast with his modern shoes.
Because you traveled, so just background. You saw that top of the image, and then you got on a plane and went to Beijing.
Yes.
And found all these authentic costumes.
Yes.
Just as background.
Yes.
Very committed. And then shaved your head.
Oh, yeah.
And then did this performance.
Yeah, I forgot to tell. I shaved my hair. That's real. It's because I shaved my hair. It's just because I wanted for this photograph because, you know, the hair has so many symbols as a woman, you know. As a woman, I wanted to reject those beliefs, you know, and also question what is the beauty is, you know. So, and also the stereotype about the Asian woman, you know, and also about the Chinese woman in general. So that's how I mimic the Miss Allen. And also, I did another piece as well, but we thought that one was better. Yeah, I was holding the fan. I have the big umbrella. Oh, of course, this big umbrella is modern. Of course, we can see it's kind of represented the gender. What's called
the rainbow.
Yeah, the rainbow. Yeah, gender as a rainbow. So, So. What's next, right? I think we talked about this.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that's your next slide for the next question.
Yeah. I think it's next question.
One of my notes here about this series was that these self-portraits explore the concept of unmasking through the act of disguise. So I love that irony in these works. But getting back to this idea of performance and how you've outlined your previous practice and how significant a role it plays, can you talk more about that in relation to some of these photos?
Yes. The performance is always in my work. Yeah, of course, maybe I didn't tell those people, this woman are me. Because I know they don't look like me at all, so that's why I have to say yes. So I always use my body as a material to work. So this is me. Oh, do you think she look like me? Yeah. So that's why. Yeah. So gender is a big issue in my work. So when I was a kid, you know, I was born in China in a village. I always wished I was a boy, you know. But it was very hard. It was very hard. You cannot tell your parents you want to be a boy, and even though I came to Canada, this still take a long time. I changed she to they. It take a long time. It's kind of with like tell everybody, oh, I come out from the closet, you know. so it take a long time, but I think the performance allowed me, give me the stage or give me the space, allow me to be who I am, just to be the person who I have feel, who I dare to be in my reality. So, for example, like this work, so where this fancy female headpiece of Beijing Opera, and I wear this man's suit. And for me, at that time, I start to wear it. I feel this kind of, I feel so right, you know, because in Beijing Opera, this is there's very, very restricted rules. You cannot mess up with like even little tiny things you cannot mix. But when I wear it, I just feel I'm so powerful as a person, and I feel this is true me, you know, both like a male and a female, or just mix, or just between. Yeah, of course, this is bear, long bear. Of course, it's more bold, you know, and this one actually is I use the symbol. The one symbol is the rope. Another one is the flower. The rope I kind of use here is just say how my body is kind of confined by the tradition, you know. And also the flower is lily flower is it's called the perfect flower. The perfect flower is a union of female and the male in one flower. So this is kind of a symbol there. Of course, I use this rope. It's a big controversial in China. So when you go upstairs, you will see there's no photographer behind. Actually, I have a photographer photographed me, but it's because this series is very controversial because you are challenging called the national treasure of China, which is the opera called the national treasure of China, and you also use this kind of Japanese rope on this high art. You know, it's really unacceptable for many Chinese people. So when Rebecca asked me, oh, who is the photographer behind? I took the photo for you. And I asked my photographer, and he didn't want to credit himself. And he said, oh, no, I don't want to make the trouble, so I respect that. Yeah, of course, this one, I also use the Chinese porcelain vase. The vase is always like a symbol of the female beauty, you know. You are so fragile, you are so beautiful and smooth. And also I typically choose this vase because they have 3 children there, you know, which of course, and it's symbolize the woman's womb. But somehow other people say it's kind of like ash, like so. But for me at that time, it's more symbolize the woman's womb. So and I just smash it. Actually, I bought 2 because I wasn't sure my photographer can capture the one, you know. So I said, okay, I have 2. So, but my photographer is really good, and he captured perfectly. So I give the other vase to him as a gift.
I love that. Okay, so that vase is like a really great transition to the next questions that I have for you around props and makeup that are crucial elements to your performance and to your photographs. So even in late 19th and early 20th centuries, the studio was a really theatrical place, okay? So it's where middle and upper class people would go to indulge in their fantasies, basically, with the help of sets and props. And they used those to help them decide how they wanted to appear publicly and perhaps with imagined new identities, right? So the photographs reveal social decorum, identity politics of the time, similar to like the modern day selfie too, right? So this is inscribed by this advertisement that I have here on the screen from 1872. And it's a Topley announcing 4 new backgrounds that he has. Come down to the studio. These are, brand new painted ones. And it also includes references to props that the public could use too. So this is a way to draw people to the studio. So thinking about props, can you talk a little bit about that in your photographs?
Yeah, I think they are very important because they are not just an object, they have something meaningful for me. For example, this one, like the cabbage. This is the typical Chinese cabbage. The Chinese cabbage is so important to me. I have to say, when I was young, kids, my mom always cooked this cabbage like every day. It's like my everyday food, and I feel, and so I come to, even though now I come to Canada, even now 22 years right now, I must keep one cabbage in my refrigerator, no matter how. So I don't eat it every day, but I just want it to be there. When every time I open my refrigerator, I will see the cabbage there. It's kind of making me very comfortable. It's remind my mother. It's just comfort me. So it's something that's very, very important to me. So when you see like that, I was actually wear something is very like it's like a prince dress, But I hold this cabbage. It's like something very special. It's like a jade, It feels like something like a jade. And also dish soap or the laundry soap. As I mentioned, I always wished I was a boy. So, and in this picture, and I wish I was boy so that I can play with the soap rather than and rather than hand wash my whole family laundry, because at that time in the village, and I was young, even like 10 years old or 8 years ago, I have to wash the whole family's clothes hand wash, and at that time I hated my father's smell very much. I don't know, and I think my sisters and my mother's clothes and smell much better. But my mother insisted to wash my father's clothes first. No matter how dirty his clothes is, and I have to wash his everything, like even socks or everything first, because he's considered as the most important person in my home, So of course we should wash his clothes first. So even though I hate it so much, but yeah, of course, like the soap, the dish soap or the laundry soap has been a burden for many women, which we all know. So, and for me, I would rather not. It's like blow away burden, and I don't want it, but I just want to play with it. And also this one, this aesthetically is not my favorite one, but I still find out it's interesting because it's kind of represent my wish. I wish I was born with something between my legs. So I found out, yes. Okay, this one is, it's called a feather duster. Maybe it's made by like a chicken feather. And so the woman just normally use it to dust the dust at home. But I hold it as hold it as a weapon. I was holding it on the shoulder, and which you can see, I definitely unhappy. And this one, of course, is very literal. You wear the boxing gloves, and we are ready to fight.
Thank you. And a lot of those didn't make it into the show, but it was a really hard selection when it came down to it, right? Okay, let's go to the next slide here. So speaking of like props, so this phoenix crown, which is in the show, one of your sculptures, can be seen as a headdress or a prop for one of your performances. So using this as like a jumping off point, can you talk about sculpture as one of your mediums and how it relates to some of your other work?
Okay, I have to talk about this. It's called a phoenix crown, which is come from this picture. So do you see this photo is also from the Beijing Opera? We didn't get a chance to choose this one as well. So the headpiece is called the phoenix crown. Phoenix in Chinese culture is very different from the Western phoenix. You know, I think the which is come from the fire, right? The ash. But the Chinese phoenix is kind of different, you know. So it's like okay, this long history, this long story about the Chinese phoenix. Actually, the long time ago, so all of like mythical creature, I think it's both the East and the West. There's no gender, you know. And it's later we added a gender on it, you know. So there's no gender. So the dragon and the phoenix are two equally powerful creatures. So actually, the phoenix was a union of male and the female bird, which is called a feng huang. Feng is male bird. Oh, feng is male bird. Huang is a female. So this actually it is a union. It's a union of male and the female bird. But as time goes by, the Chinese emperor, of course, and he took the dragon symbol to represent himself, as many people you may know this. So the Chinese people do call we are the children of the dragon. So that's about how the dragon was made. So to represent the emperor. So the phoenix was made into a female owning identity to pair with the dragon as his wife. So that's why. So which you can see this phoenix and the dragon appeared in lots of Chinese associated kind of imagery. You know, of course it kind of represent a female and a male and the yin and the yang. Of course, the happy marriage. So like this one, this is a typical wedding invitation. Of course, the dragon and the phoenix, you know, represent, and in the center is the double happiness to represent this happy marriage. But without knowing the history of this kind of how the phoenix, their transformation. So if next time, if you go to Chinatown, and in Chinatown, if you go to Ottawa, Chinatown, you sometimes you will see in a restaurant have this symbol of a dragon and the phoenix. Then next time you will see, ha 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 ha, I know, you know, the phoenix is a union of male and female. And then people will be very, very shocked. Just talk about this. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think.
And so this crown,
yeah.
Can you just talk a little bit about the
yeah. So yeah, this is a lazy cut. So I pick up one of a phoenix and I enlarge it and I use the lazy cut and these are 12 of them are rounded. You know, it's like a shape of the crown, but actually it's all phoenix.
Okay, so switching to kind of our last topic that I want to have a few questions on, which is like technology and innovation. And like laser cutting is one thing that you were getting into, and 3D printing that we see in the exhibition as well. So it's one of the many tools that you use. And just like you, Topley was an innovator who adapted to changing times and technological advancements. So after composite photography, he leveraged like important technology to capture, like there was another fancy dress ball 20 years later, and he was using new technology, not the composite, to do that. And then as amateur photography grew in popularity and the use for studios was sort of declining, he expanded his business to include the sale of like cameras and film and photographic supplies. And he became a local distributor for the Eastman Kodak. He also supplied scientific instruments to the Geological Survey of Canada. So he was sort of keeping a beat on what was happening in the scene. I think that's why he's such a savvy businessman. But technologies and that related to photography. So what other new technologies have you experimented with in your practice, and how has that influenced your work?
I have to say I love technology, and I'm the person who doesn't have any folks, and I love orange, I love apple, I love pear, so I love everything. So for me, it's hard for me just to focus on one medium. So I'm always go a little bit here, there, and I just feel I'm use all the medium, but I'm not good at anything. So that's how I feel, to be honest, because I'm not specialized in anything, So as I mentioned, because of the pandemic, it's the time it totally changed my work. I think it also challenged lots of people's work as well, because during that time it's very hard. So I think so now I use lots of VR and AR in my work, and also AI in my work. So the performance considered as immaterial. I think VR and augmented reality is also considered as immaterial as well. So it's kind of, for me, it's naturally transformed from one to another. So like this one, this is called Mulan, which you can see is like still the typical the Beijing opera style. But this one is all made in VR, drawing and painting. So what I did is I was wearing a VR headset. I was holding like a virtual, like a pen, and I was like drawing, in the space, in the VR space. But it's very interesting for me. It's when you draw a line. When you're drawing out on the paper, it's a line, But in the VR, when you're drawing a line, it's a 3D space. Yeah, it's like you draw a line. You can look at your line through 300 degrees. So, which is fantastic, So I really enjoy it. So it's kind of opened a new way how to think about drawing and painting and also sculpting. And also I started to use like a VR to start this like kind of sculpt the object, and I transform this object to like a physical object. So it's very, and actually it's very easy, You don't think about this. If I can do it and everybody can do it, because when I started this VR, I have no knowledge about anything, So I really encourage every artist, if you have a chance, just to do it. Just try it. You will find out it's fantastic. And of course, A. You did it? Huh?
It's a little frozen.
Yeah, it's frozen, but it's okay. So, and also this work was showing at the Times Square.
I know, we got to see your Times Square.
Yeah, we got to see, what's the...
Megan, can you just look into it?
Yeah, maybe just use hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Times Square. Yeah, the Times Square. So in August, the whole month in the Times Square and play the Mulan. So it's only 3 minutes every night, but it feels like the whole Times Square and stopped for you for 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. So it was amazing. It's across the 9th Street from 90. So it's like 93, like big digital billboard. So that's something for me. And okay, it's alive. Yeah. So for me, especially during the pandemic, and we faced a tremendous challenge, and what happened like right now, we have lots of violence and the war. So for me, make something purely looking for happiness now is in my main purpose in my work right now. Well, every time I watch people to enjoy my VR work, I'm just so happy. Okay, this is another two people I enjoy in my VR. Of course, photograph. So, and I have a photograph work as well, because so even though I'm a performance artist, but after I worked so many years with photographer, and somehow I become a photographer myself as well. But most of the time, I would hire people to do this because I cannot be a subject or the camera person behind at the same time. So for example, this, but I also include this technology in my work as well, like augmented reality. Because normally, okay, this is the person who uses the iPad and to activate the augmented reality component on this photograph. Because for me, most of the time, the photographs are very static, it's 2D, and they say, oh, you cannot touch it, you can just see it, you cannot touch it, you cannot engage with it. So for me, it's a little bit, So I thought it would be interesting if I add something, another component to make photograph alive and architectural and a little bit performative as well. So this is how the AR came to me. Because if you add another layer of the photograph, you really make the photograph alive, because it's like floating on your phone, and it's become like architecture as well. It's kind of floating. You have the distance between your photograph and augmented reality. And also people always try to the best angle to look at the augmented reality on the phone or the tablet, the action become a performative. They sometimes put up, down, and they go different ways. So I found out that it's interesting how to engage with people. So this is one of the things how people look at it on the cell phone. Okay, everybody can activate the augmented reality, I have to say, as long as you have a tablet and your smartphone. So you just need to download a free app, and then you open the app, and then you point at one of the photographs on the wall, and the magical is happening.
There's like music and like
music, animation, So for me, the photograph is not just a static image. It's kind of become something imaginative space, can trigger some endless possibility.
I love that. Okay, I just have one more question, and then we'll open it up to a Q&A. But if you want to go to the next slide, just speaking about the potential of technology. So this work is actually in, if you take our stairwell up to the gallery, it's sitting there in the stairwell. But how do you see the potential for technology to further evolve in your artistic practice, and are there any ethical considerations or concerns that arise when incorporating technology? And then maybe you can use this work as a jumping off point and maybe talk about some of that.
Yeah, I just wanted to be honest. I cannot predict what's going on in the future, how other people think about the technology. But for me, the AI is very fascinating for me. For example, I think it's the right thing it's a right tool to use AI. But I have to say, first of all, the board here, this image there is AI generated. So I generated a series of photographs to let the AI to imagine what my hometown look like in the future. So, and I think I could imagine, but I think it's more very, personal. It's my feeling. Of course, I want my hometown will be beautiful, it will be sustainable, this will have my very personal thing. But I let this machine to imagine it, because the machine can, of course, they collect all the data, the information the machine know, or people post it online. So they gathered all the information they imagined what my hometown looked like in the future. But it's very sadly, the machine's future is not positive. You know, it's always imagined my hometown was buried under the water. It was very sad, actually. For me, the AI is also an economic way to go. Just want to be honest, because as an artist, because I generated like 35 images, and I made it at large. This is like 2 meter by 2 meter. I could paint it, but you just imagine if you painted 35 to 2.5 by 2.5 meter, how long you are going to take. And I could just say to photograph, but then you have to choose 3 different locations, the imaginary space where you are going to find, you know. I couldn't find it. So I choose to use the AI. But I also know people have lots of concern about AI, and I have mine too. And every time I use AI, I also question myself too, but I still pick it up. For me, example is, for example, when we talk about the environment concern, like we sort out the garbage, you know, we're doing all kinds of things to try our best to keep this earth sustainable. But somewhere not far away, and somebody threw a bomb, it's ruined everything. Do you know what I mean? Do they think about this? Or they just want us to think about this, you know? So every time you use the tool, even though we said here, lots of power under this is waste energy as well. So, yeah. Sorry.
Is that how we're going to end it?
Yes, but I think this could be a sparkling conversation, you know?
Totally. Well, thank you for sharing. There's so many other questions I have, but insightful perspectives, and you have such powerful work. I think at this point we'll open it up to some questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but I have the one thing to say. So this series also has augmented reality.
Oh, right.
It's at downstairs. If you want to try it, you can go try it. You know, you can try the augmented reality. Okay, sorry. Open the
No,
question.
finish that thought, though. How do they try it?
Do we put the app there?
No, I didn't. Scrap that.
Okay, maybe just later you'll follow me. Yeah, I will show you how to do it.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
okay,
You
okay.
can show, because you have other apps, right? You have,
yeah.
I've downloaded a couple of your apps where you can actually, I have Been Here, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Where you can actually take Chunhua's body
Everywhere.
and project it into whatever space. You know, it's just like those like furniture apps where it's like, what did this rug look like in my room? Well, I can see what you look like in my house, right?
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of different things
Yeah.
that you can talk about if people are so interested afterward. But yeah, are there any questions? Maybe we can run the mic around in case.